Okay, let me do that whole thing again, this time with my mic on. Hi, my name is Rodrigo. This is Smokey the Smoke Detector, and we're gonna do some Lancer minis, and later on we'll talk about the Pokemon uh, trailer that came out today, I think. Let me put these glasses on. There we go. You have answered the question? Oh, that's good. Let's see. Hey, Lagnus. Good to see you. Yeah, let me go over here. Nope. Move this guy. Then go over here. There we go. So I got to run a session of my Lancer game. It went actually pretty well. I got the players were very much on top of things, or as on top of things as you can expect, like brand new players to be. People for whom that was their very first session of Lancer, and people for whom that was like their fourth ever session of Lancer. So it turned out pretty well. Let's see. Filters. Let's enhance. Let's sharpen it. Sharpen it a lot. Then we're going to make a little aura around it so that it doesn't get super lost. Two pixels are still probably pretty small, all things considered, but I don't want to make it much bigger than that. I just want enough of an outline so that you can tell what's going on, or so that it pops against the background. Lancer Academy, stock tokens. This is gonna be our Scourer. I'll go to the roll 20. Add character. Edit. I have it handy here. Finish tokens. Scour over. Hey, Rob, what's up? We're making some Lancer tokens for my Lancer game again. Also, we're going to talk about Pokemon, the new Pokemon trailer here in a bit. I don't know what a good name for this would be. This guy seems too advanced for an A and X guy, so we'll call it a... Futuron. Yeah. Blink Master. No. Reactor. G. We'll make up a thing for it later. Rob says, I see, of course, I missed the trailer, so I'm excited to hear the highlights. Yeah, it'll be good times. Pavlov, do you want to go outside? We just started the stream. Okay, hang on, guys. I gotta take Pavlov outside. I'm just gonna leave all this stuff up. Somebody shows up, tell them what we're doing. Where's my... Here we go. Be right back. Okay, let's see what people are saying. A good time zone. Hi, Rodrigo. Hey, Nathan. Let me bring you up to speed on the trailer a little bit while Rodrigo's away. Okay. Please tell the dog he's a good dog. I will. We have not watched the trailer already, no. There will be mechs, huge mechs piloted by Pokemon trainers. I wish. Yeah, Lancer tokens, taking out the dog, thank you. Lagnus, you're not helping. It will be rated R, and the moon is made of cheese, and all the trainers are trying to eat the moon from their mechs, I guess. Let's see. Lagnus says, I'm just joking. That was not the trailer at all. I can understand if you got fooled. A good lie just changes enough to make it still seem plausible. I mean, if somebody had told me before Sword and Shield that the next gimmick was going to be kaiju-sized Pokemon, I probably wouldn't have believed them. So now if somebody is like, oh yeah, in the next game, Pokemon have mechs, I might have been like, maybe. So yeah, right now we're just trying to, I've made some mech tokens, and I'm just trying to get them finished up. And then we might make more, but we'll take a break in the middle to watch the Pokemon trailer. Here we go. Let's see, open with Gimp. I made this little truck. So I kind of want this little truck to be a grunt assault. It's like you get attacked by this truck with a machine gun on it. Make it big. Make it big. Make it big. Make it big. Make it more big. It's very blurry. Let's enhance it. I'll go all the way over. There we go. That looks okay. Export as PNG. We want this guy to be Salt Grunt. Yeah, so we had the first session of my new Lancer game. This is a home game. It's not on Critical Hit or anything, and it went really well. The players were pretty much on top of things. Like I said, they were pretty good for people that have only played, you know, a handful of sessions of Lancer or zero sessions of Lancer. So it all went pretty well. One thing we discovered, Everests are very fast. If you want to haul in an Everest, you can basically get across a whole map in a couple turns. Salt. Salt. What's the other one? Well, Chevalier Motors gives things like Chevalier Motors. How do you say elephant in French? Is it just éléphant? Éléphant. Let me double check. L'éléphant. Oh, that's actually with a PH. Yep. I know I had been doing, like, giving them little, what do you call it? Little descriptions, but I am kind of out of it right now. I don't have the brain power to sit down and make a little description for each of these. Horseborn Mind says, Lagnus with the rare double reverse internal derail. Yeah, that's how good Lagnus is he derails himself halfway through his derailment. Horseborn Mind says, I mean, there's a car. Cars are kind of like mechs. Yeah. Scotty says, I'm also here. Good to see you. Lagnus says, I can admit the first thing I do in Roll20 is change so it only shows the names, no icons. I kind of actively do that. But it's like I like to see people's icons, and then once we get into hot and heavy into map stuff, then I turn off the icons. Judging by the names in the lower left, you're playing with Brian Bergdahl and Dana Scully. Yep, that's who it is. Now that Agent Scully finally retired, she has time for Lancer. Lang says, anyone backing Dragonbane, the free league Kickstarter currently running? I haven't seen it. Horsewoman says, at Lagnus, I do the same thing if I'm not playing with video. Can't stand those low boxes. Lang says, I never play with video. Playing with video kind of implies you have to look like a human being, not someone who was working outside up until 10 minutes before the session starts and is dressed in nothing but a kilt. I don't see the problem with that. Richie says, or Rob says, shovel yay is as close as I can get without using a phonetic alphabet. Shovel yay? Oh, chevalier, yep. Yeah, I always try to play with video. I don't force people to play with video, but I want to. Because then you can see people and see their reactions and interact with them. You can interact with them not verbally. Does that... Oh, captions died again. Okay, go to sleep, captions. Check, 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 1, 2, 3. Ugh. This is gonna be a real thing today. Yeah, I don't mind, or I prefer it if I can see people. We stopped using video for Critical Hit a long time ago because it was a drain on the bandwidth, and it kind of made things slower since we're like everybody's recording remotely now. But yeah, when I play with people at home, I use my video. I encourage people to use the video, and people are like, "Oh no, I look hideous," and I'm like, "Yeah, me too." Like, you know, it's okay. Presumably we're friends, so it doesn't matter if you don't look your bestest. If we're playing on like a Sunday morning, I don't expect you to be all done up. I guess unless you're like a real church-going type, in which case I do expect you to be on like dressed to the nines. But other than that, I'm not really expecting anything. You know, it's like, you see this? This is what I have to work with, so it's gonna be fine. Lagna says it's a new edition of Sweden's oldest RPG. Came out in 1982. Been several editions and expansions over the years. Quite looking forward to it. That's cool. Is it gonna be? Are they gonna do an English version too? Arl Ritchie says, sorry, that message got lost to time. Yeah, it happens. Hearthstone Mine says, I play with video with my friends, but not with strangers. Oh yeah, I guess I forgot that a lot of people play with strangers. I do not. Like, I only play with people I already know. Malone is here. Hey, guys. Lagna says, Dragonbane is the international name. Dragons and Demons, the Swedish name, but in Swedish. Okay. Lagna says, we have just gotten used to the voice only, I suspect. And I don't think I even have a webcam anyway. Okay, well, that's fine. Hey, St. JW. Just making some Lancer tokens right now. Let's see. Made the little truck. What else am I missing? Oh, I wanted to do this guy. Gimp. I wanted to use this guy sort of like as a generic mech. Like a generic size 1 mech in case somebody... It's like... Again, the issue with Lancer is that it's very prep heavy. So if a player all of a sudden is like, you know what? Instead of using such and such, like instead of using this mech that I have the license for, I'm going to use this other mech that I have the license for. This is so I don't have to make a brand new mech token immediately on the fly. This can be the generic size 1 token. Oh-ho. Ekfi11 is now following. Thank you for the follow. It's good times. We're making Lancer tokens. Sharpen. Sharpen this much. Yeah, nice and sharp. Uh-huh. Select. Invert. Grow. By 2 pixels. Then we fill it with a bucket and we are done. But I missed. No! Okay. I'm dial it back. Alright, let's try that again. Select, invert, select, grow, 2 pixels. Then we fill it with a bucket and we are done. Alright, there we go. That's better. Then we export it. Generic 1. Export. Let's see. Free League always do at least 2 languages or English only these days. You can't make it a full-time job in Sweden without that, and they're by far the largest RPG company here. Okay, well that's too bad. But RPG companies barely survive in the US, so I get it. Skippy says, so I hear there's a trailer. I was just failing group hunts in Monster Hunter, so this is going to be a nice break. Okay. Yeah. Tricky bucket. Could it be? Has Rodrigo invented a second catchy bucket themed jingle? Yeah, I guess I never thought that I would be the bucket guy, but there are lots of useful buckets out there. Not just the paint bucket, but the temporary hit point bucket. I guess we'll put this one under frames. This will be generic frame. Generic size 1 frame. Maybe we'll... That's not what I meant to do. If you guys want, right when after I'm done moving this over, we can check out the trailer, since it sounds like people are here and they're excited about it. Okay. You guys want to watch the trailer? Let's see. Skippy says, what is the stream's feelings about Armored Core? We've talked about Armored Core before. I've never played it, but I think people like it. Yeah. Okay, that's a good quote. There are lots of useful buckets out there. Malone says, I played Cyberpunk this past week. Nice to notice it's not buggy anymore on console, and even got 60 frames per second update yesterday. Seems I got it at the right time, which is 9 months after release or so. Yeah. Yeah, I played it right after it released, and it was an experience, especially on PlayStation 4. Likeness says, but I'm feeling very, very warm about Phoenix Points if we're talking about mech video games. Phoenix Point probably... No, yeah, Phoenix Point. Phoenix Point is by the XCOM team, right? Yeah, let's look at the trailer. They fixed their game in time for some DLC that's supposed to give more of the game we were supposed to have. Yeah. Let's look at the trailer. But let's switch to the browser instead of my desktop. Okay, there we go. And once again, here, let me turn on the captions for this. Once again, I apologize if the captions stop working because they're browser-based, and when I'm using the browser, it's difficult to get them to work. All right. Let me turn off the music. And then play this. I'll probably turn this down.
How's it going?
Hey, Rod. Thank you for the subscription. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's going good. We're about to watch the new Pokemon trailer. Maybe even lower volume there. It's all cute. I like the motorcycle lizards. Okay, so people are like, "Oh, new Pokemon, blah blah blah." The fact that a main Pokemon game is going to like allow you to set destinations in your map is like technology that they should have had like 15 years ago. But also, it's like so good to see. Like Pokemon games are so obnoxious about where you're supposed to go next. So your ability to set things on the map and for things to show up on the map, that's good. It's again like basic functionality that games have had forever that Pokemon has just never gotten around to. In Sword and Shield, you got like a mission, like little mission flag for where you were supposed to go next, but that's it. And even then, it didn't really show you which way to go. But you know, at least it showed you something. So yeah, first thing that I'm excited about is added map functionality, which seems really dumb, but it's, you know, it's okay. All right. Starfall Street. Yeah, so this is the new team, right? Team Stars or something like that. I know that they're part of the university or the part of the school that you join, but these designs are are very generic looking. I was hoping for something a little stronger, but we'll see the leader too. Yeah, Team Star. You guys see that Oricorio? That's kind of a big deal because Oricorio is like kind of a difficult Pokemon, so it's interesting that they brought it back. So that'll be interesting. Cool car. Oh, this is the leader. Mela. It's cool, right? It's a fun battle with like their Pokemon being on top of this thing. I wonder if it gets any sort of like bonuses or anything for being on top of the truck. That's something that Pokemon's been playing with. Obviously, Dynamaxing was something like that, but like the Totem Pokemon was also a thing like that in Sun and Moon. So I wonder if they're going to do something like that, right? If they're going to be like, okay, well, here's a fight, and all the Pokemon in this fight are getting a bonus because of this like huge sound system or something like that. That would be nice. I would like to see something like that. Let me get this to full screen. Let's see. Most Pokemon maps. Yes, thank you. Quote 13. The main problem with D&D is that it's very stupid. Most Pokemon maps don't even show when where on the route you are. Yeah, that's true. Richie says, business casual evil team, right? Likeness says, I don't want to say that Team Star could be named Team Elton John, but I'd like to heavily imply it. They're not like, yeah, maybe Mela, but like again, these guys are like a little bland, especially when you compare them to like Team Skull or Team Yell, which have been like the last few. Um, let's see. Skippy says gang violence, interesting design directions. I'm not against it. Well, like an evil gang is like pretty common in Pokemon games. Horse Online says I want to know what was going on there where it looked like a bunch of Pokemon were all fighting at once. Yeah, like it looked like you were fighting with two Pokemon at once. So that's kind of interesting. Malone says, gotta respect those boots. Quite a fashion statement. Yeah, those boots are pretty intense. Let's see if we can see the boots. Yeah, those are some hardcore boots. Let's see. Lightning says it's not just a truck, it's a mecha truck with speakers worthy of Mad Max. I guess I actually did describe the trailer. Get ready for the moon. Yeah, maybe. Skippy says, on the big mosh pit of Pokemon looked like a rumble from the Outsiders, gang violence, baby. Yeah, it's. I'm sure the Outsiders is a big inspiration for this generation of Pokemon. Path of Legends. This crab is fun. Fun looking crab. I think he's gonna be a ground type. Arven. Those crabs are really big. Cloth. Do you think that cloth is a play on the word cliff? I'm happy to see Pokemon that look this big because in the last few things, again, Dynamax being an exception, but is like yeah, like Pokemon have huge size differences between them. So I hope that we see stuff like this where you can have very big Pokemon in a fight sequence, and it looks good. Um, Horseman says stay gold Ponita. Nice. That's good. That's very good. Uh, Skippy says mess with the Crabbo, you get the Stabbo. Lagnus says disco balls, loud music, star-shaped sunglasses, outrageous boots. This is Team Elton John. Okay, yeah, no, I get what you're saying now. Um, Horse One of Mine says I think it's very interesting they're doing Titans again. That feels like such a specific thing to the Legends Arceus setting. Well, so it was called. There were alphas in Arceus, but you're right. If they do if they do larger Pokemon, then that means that you might be able to bring in your Pokemon from Legends Arceus, right? Because right now, I don't know what happens if you try to move an Alpha into Sword and Shield. My guess is it just doesn't happen, or hopefully it doesn't like erase their alphaness. But this looks like it's made so that you can take your alphas from Legends Arceus and move them into this. Horseman Man says this reads more like the big lords or whatever they're called, like the specific big ones that live in a specific place. I can't remember what they're called in Arceus. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, they are the lords or something like that. I mean, you're right. This thing we just saw looks like it looks like a built-in fight into the game, right? It's not a random encounter, but I don't think this is something where you're like running around throwing stuff at it or anything like that. This is just a big one that you fight. The Stony Cliff Titan Cloth. Yeah, but is it just... Is that just the Pokemon? Yeah. Like, this is just what the This is just like the Pokemon's title. Just like, well, we'll see other Pokemon later. But yeah, they're just like... They're just giving it a little title, I think. I wouldn't read too much into that specifically. Uh, like it says, I will name my firstborn son Cloth. Nice. Skippy says, I get the feeling they have active and inactive stuff. Some of your Pokemon will have contest stats in one game, but it's just a regular Pichu in a different game. Yeah, that makes sense. Lightning says, my grandkids will be very confused when their dad gets a new name, but such is life. Okay. Victory Road. I mean, this lady seems cool. She's the Pokemon League chairwoman, so a better than zero chance that she's going to turn out to be evil. Nimona looks cute. There's something about the design of the people in this game that is like I feel blander than even when you look at Sword and Shield. Um, the protagonist is kind of bland, but other people have more stuff going on. There's something about the faces in this game that I'm like, these faces are like, they're like softer, they're like doughier, they don't have as sharp features. So, I don't know. It's okay, it's fine. Oh, a whole Sunflora event. Good for people that like Sunflora. Brassius is the grass type guy. People pointed out that like the last like 10 grass type gym leaders or something like that are like nice nurturing types. So it's nice to get like a spiky guy as the grass type leader, right? Uh-oh. Look out, Quaxley. This is cute. Finally, Sudowoodo is a grass type. That's cute. Yeah, I like terrestrialization or whatever. It's pretty interesting. Let's see. They look like bland GameCube RPG character designs. Yeah, they do. Shovelware RPGs, yeah. The Sudowoodo that has some wild texture on it. Did it have some texture? Yeah, I remember we looked. There was like a Pineco. And that Pineco had some texture to it. Yeah, well, I believe you. I just hate to have to find things using this little bar. Go where you want. Do what you want to do the most. Right? Those guys. I do not like those Pokemon. November 18. Yeah, I do not. A lot of people are into it, but I do not like those like Mega Man looking Pokemon for the same reason as usual. You know me, I'm not big into like anthropomorphic Pokemon. Is like the more a Pokemon looks like a person, the less interested I am in it. So those guys are definitely like very person looking. Um, and people have pointed out that they're very Mega Man looking, but to me, I look at these guys and I'm just like, let me find them. Yeah, I look at these guys and I'm like, oh, I moved it away from that. Let me bring it back to the browser. Yeah, to me, I see those guys and I'm like, yep, yep, that's a Digimon. Like this evolves from a potato with eyes, and it turns into this, and then its next Digivolution is like a a demon with four legs. That's what it is. This is a middle evolution between a potato with eyes and a demon with four legs in Digimon. That's what this looks like to me. But I get it. People are excited. I don't want to bash it or whatever, but it's like I don't know. It's like a person wearing armor, right? And it's like, oh, look at this Pokemon. It's like that's just like a guy wearing armor. That's just me. I just I don't like it. Um, let's see. Can you breed bicycles now? You can breed. I don't know. I don't know if you're going to be able to breed. I don't know what the relationship is between the most recently revealed bicycle Pokemon and the actual or and the legendary super bicycles. So we'll see. We'll see if you can breed for a basket. That's clever though. I like it. Arl Ritchie says, "Oh heck, that's really soon. Yeah, it's coming up." Skippy says, "I'm out on this gen at this point." That's fair. You should definitely skip any Pokemon generation that you don't care about. Arl Ritchie says, "It'll be my first play on release game since Silver, so I'm already emotionally tied up in it." Oh no, you haven't even played it yet, and you're already having feels for it. That makes sense. No, I get it. Lagna says, "I will graciously allow Rodrigo to play this game for me." Oh well, thanks guys. Horseman Man says, "I'm excited mostly because this feels like a fun middle ground for me, who likes battling, and my friends who like exploring in Arceus. Now we both get to play together and get a little of what we want." Yeah, that's fun. And the fact that you can play with other people non-competitively, like the fact that you can play cooperatively with other people, is something that, like, again, maybe should have been part of Pokemon a long time ago, but I'm glad that they're doing it now. Um, Skippy says, "Oh man, we'll be in this one for a year or two." Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. This is gonna be the big Pokemon game for the next like 3 4 years, and then they'll launch the new one. And in the middle of this, they'll have other Pokemon releases. At least that's what they do. Horseman Man says, "I do not like these armored folks either." Yeah. Um, where am I at? Arl Ritchie says, "This is that Yu-Gi-Oh sci-fi motorcycle thing, but Pokemon." I have it. I'm not familiar with that, but I believe you. Skippy says 5DS. No. Malone says, "One thing I respect about Nintendo is that in few months from now, release schedule with most big publishers is more like in 7 years." We think, well, I mean, they've been announcing this for a while. Pokemon 5DS? Yes. No. Skippy says that feels like a feature that probably should have been around for Black 2 White 2. Yeah, it's like at least for the 3D releases, right? So from XY forward, they could have had something like that. And could you like interact with other people in their plazas, right? You know that like you know what I'm talking about? That like online environment where you could like do things. You weren't interacting with people live though. Like you could interact with people's avatars, but they weren't like at the same time controlling them at the same time that you were. I think. I don't know if that's not true, then that's fine. Skippy the Wonder Chicken says, "Oh, I meant that Rodrigo's playthrough of Violet will take us a year or two." Oh, yes. If I do play through it, it'll take us forever. Precisely for this reason, because I have. I gotta say I appreciate you guys. There's like 12 of you in here, and I appreciate what an active chat this is for how few people there tend to be here. And obviously I appreciate you guys all the more because you're the regulars. If you're not a regular but you'd like to be, we're here most Wednesdays, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And yeah, we talk about Pokemon and we talk about Lancer and we talk about whatever I want to talk about, plus whatever the chat brings up. Sometimes sends us in like huge spiraling tangents. So there's that, I guess. Um, oh, Arrow Ritchie was talking about Yu-Gi-Oh 5DS. Oh, 5Ds. I thought you wanted I thought you were trying to get a Nintendo game that existed in 5 dimensions. Skippy, yeah, my interpretation was not correct. So I apologize for that. I didn't mean to get angry at you guys meddling with the space-time continuum. I understand now that it was something else. Yeah, that's a good quote. Already not doing great. Rodrigo, 20 seconds into the final fight. Yep. Uh, Likeness says, if you're not a regular, you can become one. That's right. Um, Hands out free cult robes. I don't know what my cult robes would look like. They would probably just have like a oh, where is it? Yep. They'd probably just have like a white circle and then be like, yes, this is the symbol of Smokey. It's like a white circle with a little red dot in it. Okay, but you would totally play a 5 dimensional Pokemon game if I guess if I had the opportunity to play a Pokemon game and in the process make my parents never meet, I guess I would still risk it. Yeah, the Cult of Petunia. Yeah, that's a good one. All right. Let's go back to minis. Uh, where am I looking at? In-game monitor. I guess while we're here, I can show you guys the background. I got this background from the internet, but I made this little circle thing because it's so busy. Like I couldn't see my icons. So yeah, nice Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. If you've never read Cadillacs and Dinosaurs or Xenozoic Tales, as was its original name, you guys might want to track that down. See if they have it on Comixology or something. Skippy says Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. I read that specifically because of you guys. Yeah, it's fun. It's actually pretty good. I enjoyed it a lot. It's very pulpy, and cars are cool, dinosaurs are cool. Like it says, I have not read Cadillacs and Dinosaurs in 30 years, I think. Yeah, my first exposure to Cadillacs and Dinosaurs was a video game. There was actually a video game where you were like driving around trying to like dodge dinosaurs, obviously in a big Cadillac. And I was like, what am I looking at? And then I realized that it was a whole thing with comics and everything. Um, Also, for all you Critical Hit people or people that enjoy Critical Hit, the Rob's game Paladins and Dinosaurs was named that as a kind of a riff on Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. Skippy says the paperback omnibus is like $30 worth a buy. It is, and it's like it's an unusual comic book. It also was kind of, you should know, I guess, ahead of time. Um, if I recall correctly, it was very much plagued by um, production issues. So the stories don't always pan out. I think like not all the stories have like an actual like conclusion, but you know, for what it is, it's very good. Let's see. Paladins and Dinosaurs is for the real old heads. Damn, that's right. Not only is it now an ancient chapter of Critical Hit, but also, yeah, a reference to Cadillacs and dinosaurs is not something that is like just casually thrown out most of the time, right? Okay. Well, oh no, that is not what I meant to do with this. Let me see if I can access this. Um, size two. Yeah. So I want that to be this Lancaster with a gun is going to be my generic size two mech in case I emergency style need to do a size two mech. Mm-mm-mm. So you might see here that for the hex one, the hex takes up the whole canvas, but for the size 2 one, it only takes up like a little bit over half the canvas. The reason for that is that Roll20 is not always great, and one of the things that it does is it tries to. Um, I made this way too big. Is it always tries to snap things to the center, but its hex grid is actually just a regular grid with like hexes, like a regular square grid with hexes overlaid on it. So when you have a size 2 object, which is made of 3 hexes, it doesn't snap them to the hexes. It snaps it to the center. So this is like a big thing to make this off center so that it snaps into that into the grid. Let's see. Lagna says I enjoyed the Miss Marvel discussion this morning. I read the comics after I played her in Marvel Champions, the card game. That's cool. How was that? How is that card game? Let's see. Old video games were an interesting way to be introduced to comics. I found out about Nemesis the Warlock from a Commodore 64 game. Yeah, sure. Defying All Odds, it was actually pretty good too. Okay. Skippy says, I was 18 when that came out. Oof, that person doesn't even exist anymore. I mean, yeah, I've been doing this forever. This I probably don't even have to sharpen. It's not that big, but what the heck, let's sharpen it anyway. Yeah, I think about it. I think about that a lot. I'm like, something will come up from a previous episode, and I'm like, man, I wasn't even like anywhere close to like dating my wife at that point. Like I was like either single or dating someone else, and I'm like, what was that life like? Invert. Grow. Alright, nobody panic. This is not going to be pretty, but we'll fix it. And then we fill it with the bucket. Yeah, so we're going to get these huge white segments, but that's okay. They delete real easy. Just need to do it. Boop. And bloop. Move this up. There we go. Export as Academy base tokens. Oh, no. It's finished tokens. Generic one. So this will be generic 2. Skippy says, I was like 14, really makes me feel old. Sure. Oh, I started listening to the pod at 14. That was a lot of bad decisions ago. Me too. Lightning says, I play Marvel Champions quite a lot, often solo instead of video games these days. Yeah, that's cool. Skippy says, I mean, you were in Kansas, so it couldn't be more different than where you are now. From a pancake to a rainforest. I guess that's true. Why is this? Okay. Washington State is very different. It is very different from Kansas. At least living in urban Washington State, it's particularly different because, there are buildings here. But there are also trees here. And this is true. When I moved here from Kansas, after living for Kansas for about 10 years, I would be driving, and along the sides of the road there would be trees, and I would start getting anxious because I couldn't see past where I was going, right? It's like in Kansas, you can always see, it's like if there's a bend in the road, you can see what's on the other side of that bend. It's like here you can't. So I would start getting like I it felt like I couldn't see because like there were trees always on either side of the road, right? And I was like, man, these freaking trees. But I've gotten used to it now. Skippy says there are things to stop the howling winds. Yeah, and honestly, there aren't as many howling winds, but when there are, things often shut down, right? So it's like in Kansas, we would have 70-mile-an-hour winds, and that was just like a Tuesday. It's like here, if you get like 30-mile-an-hour winds, like huge sections of the city lose power because trees, like tree branches fly into power lines and stuff. So it's like, well, at least in Kansas, like the infrastructure was such that you could deal with a strong winds. I'm not doing a generic size 3 frame. That would be too much. Also, I made it on the wrong category. Let's see. Lagna says, I too started listening when I was 14, back in the 80s, to a podcast. Took some real effort, downloading the latest episode over a 240 baud connection. That was back when we would just send you tapes. You would have to write in and say, please send me the tape of the latest episode, and we would send you a tape. Oof, yeah, like driving between two semis at a certain point, yeah. Malone says, so Rodrigo wouldn't be going anywhere in Finland. Trees is all you see while driving. Well, I'm more used to it now. Maybe occasional lake between trees. Yeah, that's what Washington State is like. Like you'll be driving and there'll be trees, and then like the trees will clear up and there's a lake, and I'm like, what's this lake? Like, what's this lake? I've never even heard of this lake. How is this lake just randomly here? And that just happens. It's like in Kansas, the Corps of Engineers has to like show up and make a lake. Out here, there's just lakes all over the place. Skippy says, oh, you meant podcast as a whole. Gotcha. I just meant the MSP. I feel like podcasts were just pirate radio broadcasts on cassette tapes, the Anarchist audiobook. Yeah, yeah, Steven was definitely on the like vanguard of podcasting. He was trying to get he already had a podcast by the time that the Major Spoilers podcast rolled around. I think eventually he stopped doing it because Coca-Cola forced him to. That's a whole story. You should ask Steven about his travails with Coca-Cola at some point. This is why we only drank Pepsi at when we were recording Critical Hit. Actually, Steven wanted us to only drink Pepsi, but he would get Cokes for me because he's just that guy, just that kind of guy. Just a good person. People used to look at me like I had a third head when I told them I was listening to podcasts on my Zune instead of music. Yeah, it's like I remember when like people were like hey, are you listening to like Serial? And people were like, what is Serial? And it's like, it's a podcast. They're like, what's a podcast? Precious. Like, yeah, it's amazing how long it's taken for people to get into podcasts. And meanwhile, there's just been tons of podcasts. I think a lot of people didn't realize that they were listening to podcasts. They'd be like, I love NPR, and NPR would be like, okay, well, here's all the extras from All Things Considered that we didn't put in, and it's like, guess what? You're listening to a podcast. Let's see. MSP was the first podcast I ever found, so I remember feeling that it was very original. I mean, we were. I'd like to think we're original, but it's uh, like what, like news, then a poll, then reviews, and then more reviews. Is like, yeah, it's like it's a little information show. It's infotainment. Yeah, I used to drink Coke a lot. Now I don't anymore because I really need to sort of contain the amount of caffeine I have. So I don't just I've basically switched to clear sodas like Sprite and 7 Up. Skippy says now every dude bro with a with bad opinions has a podcast. It's true, but they don't maintain the podcast. It's pretty rare for a podcast to keep going past that sort of like initial like burst of energy, and it's like, I'm gonna do a podcast. In fact, I think I've told you guys before, and if not, here it is again. The reason why I signed up for the Major Spoiler podcast, right? Because Steven and I worked together. We worked for different companies, but we worked on the same TV show. Um, the reason why I even started it is because I was like, yeah, I'll do this, but it won't last. I have never been part of a project that actually went the distance. So sure, I'll sign up for it. And here I am now, like more than a decade later, still recording the Major Spoilers podcast. So shows what I know. Um, Lagna says it was because of the Zune, not the podcast. Okay, little Zune shot. Skippy says I was just happy to have an MP3 player with a touch interface at 14. Yeah, that's pretty good. RL Richie says, yeah, like early waves of podcasting, definitely. Skippy says, I've been using my Discman up to a point. Oh, I had been using my Discman up to that point. I had a Discman. I used to listen to it on the bus on the way to school. Malone says, Critical Hit was the first podcast I listened to too. Sometime I found out about video streaming when it was just starting. Yeah. It was all kind of starting up at the same time. Horsepower Man says, I was so over the moon when I called into one of your live shows back in 2011 or 12. I was so nervous to talk about the new 52 Green Lantern. I'm sure I didn't say anything worthwhile at all. It's good times. It's fine. You don't have to, like, we are here to entertain you. You just show up and talk to us, and that's fine. Arl Richie says, oops, you overcommitted. Rodrigo is still like, any day now it'll be over. Yeah, this is a little fly-by-night thing. Any day now I will be free of this curse. No. I really enjoy being a part of Major Spoilers. And the Major Spoilers podcast and Critical Hit. And Top 5 as well. Even though I think Top 5 causes me to have to break up more fights than anything else. Sinjado says, I found MSP and Crit Hit via TMS. Yeah, so that's a big one. A lot of people have come to the Major Spoilers side of things through Frog Pants, right? Frog Pants is Scott Johnson's podcast network. They had The Instance, which was colossal, right? It was it was the World of Warcraft podcast. And so a lot of people trickled out from that into Major Spoilers because Steven guests on Scott Johnson's shows, and actually he might be a regular on some of them. Horseman says, you guys sent me a copy of Telos after I called in. I was thrilled. Yeah, Telos is good for you. Skippy says, if Rodrigo didn't enjoy it, this would be the most long-running run of recorded self-flagellation in history. Yeah, if I didn't enjoy it, like that, That would be a terrible personality trait of like, I hate this, but I totally committed to it 10 years ago, so I guess I gotta keep doing it. Like, no, if I wasn't enjoying it or if I didn't think I could do it anymore, I wouldn't do it. Horseman says, where's top 5 these days? I looked on Spotify and didn't see it. I think our only show on Spotify is Critical Hit, right? Oh, I didn't mean to go here. How do I go to regular Spotify? So I know Critical Hit is on Spotify. Is it Major Spoilers Podcast? No, I think Critical Hit is our only show on Spotify. I don't know if Top 5 was ever on Spotify. Some other Top 5 podcast is there, but it's not ours. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. St. Jadolu says he's a regular on Monday on TMS. Yeah, Steven is. Malone says it happens. I agreed to visit a podcast once. Now I'm somehow co-hosting it 6 years and 245 episodes later, right? That just happens. Skippy says, I think I picked up the pod because Steven did a bunch of pre-recorded reviews Scott Johnson would run at the end of the old Extra Life podcast. Yeah. Back when that existed. Horseman says, I could have sworn it was back in the day, but maybe I'm wrong. I'll track it down once I get more podcast time in my life. Yeah, sure. Yeah, Top 5 is still around, but it's, I think Critical Hit was actually part of Spotify's pilot program for podcasts. Like, for a while, there were only a handful of podcasts on Spotify. So it's like, it's us and Joe Rogan, baby. Yeah. I don't know. Skippy says, I use Podcast Addict and they seem to have all the MSP pods. That's good. Yeah. Podcast aggregators will have everything. Spotify is just pickier about it, I guess. They're like, okay, this is a big enough podcast for us to have. Like, we're not going to do rinky-dink little podcasts. So that's cool. That makes one feel good, right? It's like Spotify, like being like, hey, we wanna host your podcast. It's pretty good. Horseman says, I've been meaning to divest from Spotify. It's just such a hassle. I literally did for a while. I don't know if you saw like the brief flash of my Spotify where it has like your top songs from 2018 and your top songs from 2019. Like, there aren't any 2020, 2021 top song playlists because I quit using Spotify for 2 years. The main reason why I came back to it is because, you know, our show is on Spotify. You know, Critical Hit is on Spotify. It's weird for me to be like, boo, Spotify for having Joe Rogan and not containing him, or not, like, you know, warning people against them, when also the podcast that I'm on is on Spotify. So sometimes being a creator puts you in like very awkward situations. So I started using it again. But yeah, I definitely still feel a little weird about it. Lagnus says, I was listening to a couple of board game pods and figured there would be a comic podcast out there, and that was Major Spoilers. 2009 maybe? Sure, yeah. We were doing stuff. I think we started in 2008. Yeah, 2008, just such a year, right? Obama gets elected. I buy a Yaris. Major Spoilers podcast starts. Just such a year. Skippy says, it was the summer before freshman year of high school, back before I knew what a Scott Pilgrim or a libertarian was. Well, at least one of those is still fun. Likeness says between 2009 and 2011, I think at any rate. Yeah. Yep, that was us. That's what we were doing. Okay, let me see if I have any other mechs already made. I guess not. Yeah. Let's see what else we have left to make. Scouter, Scout, Cedar. We haven't made a Cedar. Let's see what retrograde Cedar looks like. Yeah. That looks okay. Looks interesting. Let's see what its options are. That's cool. Give me 1 second, guys. I gotta eat a granola bar real quick for blood sugar. Skippy says Spotify is kind of sucky. Podcast Addict doesn't have ads, so I've been using them for like 8 years. Yeah, Spotify is not a podcast aggregator. We want to be on Spotify for discovery, right? Because people are already listening to music, so they just switch over to podcasts. But no, if your only source of podcasts is Spotify, you're probably missing out on some other stuff. I mean, obviously on the rest of the Major Spoilers catalog for one. Skippy says, it was the summer before freshman year of high school, back before I knew... Oh, we already saw this. Skippy says, I still whisper Dragon Storm to people. R.L. Richie says, I was a high school senior in 09 and 08. Well, good for you, youngins. Likeness says, the hosts back then were so much younger than the current hosts. Yeah, you're right. You can hear it. Like, Steven said something, like he went back and listened to like an old episode, and like our voices sound very different, and I'm sure they do. Just like, just have like a lot more energy to them. Now we're old, and also we lived through like 2016, so... And the pandemic, so I'm sure right now we're like, I read a comic and it was good. It brought me some small amount of joy. That's us now. Yeah, it's good times. Okay. Yeah, this I like this Scouter. I might keep it like this, just like gray and black with like the purple accents. I think it looks good. Oh no, I already built a Scourer. That's the one I just did. That's this guy. Yeah. Okay, no Scours then. What's the next thing? Scout, already have. Cedar. Oh no, that's what I was looking for. That guy's a seeder, not a scout. Yep. Let's see. Matthew sounds shockingly similar, probably because he may have been born old. Yeah, Matthew was actually born an old baby. He was born and he was immediately put into like a comic book long box with a bunch of issues of the Legion of Superheroes, and that box was not opened again until 1997, where he like emerged fully formed as the Matthew we know today. Arl Ritchie says, "I didn't mean it in a bad way. It's just bizarre. It's a different world from when Critical Hit started." I know. I'm not like I'm not upset about how long it's been. Like it's like Critical Hit, the Void Saga for me, right, is a huge body of work that I created or that I created along with a bunch of other people. So I mean, I've said before that the Void Saga is my magnum opus, not because I think of it that way, but because it is. Because it's like the longest running, like the most prolific, like the biggest showcase of my work that exists out there, right? So yeah, it's gonna like I'm gonna have to do something big if I ever want to say that like the Void Saga is like the second most like the second best thing that I've ever done. Fun fact: Matthew was born in the same way as Xenomorph is. Yeah, yeah, we knew this, but he was born so long ago that it's a Xenomorph that exploded out of a saber-toothed tiger. So nobody was there to tell. Let's see. Where is my little cedar guy? We'll cut. And then we will go to the thing and paste. Then open this with GIMP. Here we go. Pretty sure cedars are size 1. Yep. So this we can just delete because that was wrong. Go to this guy, open the thing, put him in there. Nope. Scale, 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 scale. I guess I don't want his antenna to be out of the frame. Skippy says, after I finish my Monster Hunter run, I think I'm going to go full mecha and do Armored Core games. Yeah, that'll be fun. I've never played the Armored Core games. Oh, let me sharpen it. Let's see. Select, invert, select, grow, fill with a bucket. There we go. File, export as cedar. Can't fight the cedar. Close that, open this. Add character. Find a thing. that up. I do like Roll20's generic names. I think they've only gotten better. Let's see. Yeah, we can make this a Mechanicon mech. Tank Buster. It busts tanks by having them explode from underneath, not by actually, is the Cedar a turret? The turret guy? No, that's the mines guy. The turret guy is the engineer. Yeah. So that's good. Yep. And like I said, I've been writing descriptions for them, but my brain's a little fried. I've gone 2 consecutive days having to get up earlier than I normally do. And I'm a little sensitive baby about that. Like if I sleep less than, like, the absolute minimum that I can sleep is 4 hours. If I sleep less than 4 hours, then I just like get a migraine and collapse. Hey, look, Unlike Dragoon 91 is now following. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. We're making little Lancer tokens for my Lancer game. But yes, I don't do well with like very little sleep. Like I probably got maybe 5 hours of sleep last night, and then the previous day I didn't get very much sleep either. So I'm like, my brain is like working at like half efficiency, which is not great because I have to record a critical hit session after this. St. JW redeemed a story about Kansas. Okay. And an NPR voice. God, now I have to think of a story about Kansas that I can do in an NPR voice. Let's see. What's a good story about Kansas? Did I ever tell you guys about my boss and the Count the Bolts promotion? It's something I might have mentioned. A lot of these stories I've mentioned in like the podcast before, but I don't think I've talked about the Count the Bolts promotion here. Here, I'll try to get the captions up and running again. Unlike Dragoon 91 says, we already know each other from Facebook, sir. I just saw your post and had no idea you were on. Yeah. Well, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Lightning says, well, speaking of sleep, I'm heading off to hunt for a week on Friday with 4 o'clock mornings. So I shall head to bed. Later, people. Later, Likeness. Okay, so I guess I can set it up with an NPR voice. So imagine, if you will, a town. Bunker Hill, Kansas. In it, a small station struggling with the knowledge that soon the digital transition will happen. Then, out of the blue, funding arrives, and the station is able to build a large antenna so that it can start broadcasting in digital. This is a story of Count the Bolts. So, my boss at the time, who was terrible, you might recall that from a different story in which he slapped me, wanted to build up hype about the new digital tower we were building. If you're a little baby young'un, you might not realize that it used to be that TV signal went out with an analog signal so that analog TVs could pick it up. Eventually, the FCC said, at this time, you have to change your signal to digital. So Part of that was some stations had to build a new digital antenna because they only had antenna that could produce an analog signal. So the little tiny station that I was working with, first off got an extension, but then afterwards got funding to build a tower. So again, my terrible boss wanted to build hype about this tower. He wanted everybody to know that the tower was coming and that we were going to be broadcasting in digital and it was going to be glorious. Things that people in Kansas do not care about, not even a little bit. So the way that he did it was he tried to get involved kids and have this thing called Count the Bolts. And he said that he had worked out the number of bolts. And so we started doing these hints, right? So it's like, okay, here's your Count the Bolts hint number 1. Each guy wire is held down by 3 bolts on top and 3 bolts at the bottom. And there are so many guy wires, right? So it's like, okay, your kids figure it out. It's like section 1 has like these many bolts, and each section of this has so many bolts, and there are so many sections of this. Like, okay, all right, trying to figure it out. So this went on for a very long time. It was like months of these Count the Bolts hints. I will point out that I have 0 evidence that anyone ever cared about this thing. I don't know if, like, we might have gotten like 1 or 2 responses. So the thing keeps going. He keeps giving more hints, and I know this because I was the one who was making these promos, right? He wrote them, but I was having a voice actor voice them, and I was editing them together using footage that people have gotten from the tower construction and other footage that I could hope to use. A lot of graphics because at first there wasn't a tower there to shoot, and even when there was somewhat of a tower there to shoot, it's just like a static half-built tower, right? Nothing's happening. So anyway, it keeps going, and I assumed at that point, I'm like, yeah, somebody is keeping track of this and being like, okay, I have this and I have this and I have this. And then the final hint came down, and the final hint was, so in addition to everything you've already worked out, there are anywhere between like 20 and 100 more bolts, right? So you couldn't figure it out. Yeah. You'd have to guess. Like the last one was like, now guess a number between like 20 and 100 and hope that you get it right. And I remember when I looked at that and he gave it to me, I'm like, I had that same response. I responded just like Skippy. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, they just have to guess or whatever. And I'm like, but we've been saying, like, there's a prize. Like, there's a prize involved. Like, somebody's going to get a prize for figuring this out. We can't just make them guess, because then it would be arbitrary. Also, people that have been doing the math this long are going to be upset. And he's like, that's how he was. Like, yeah, well, it's fine. And I'm like, okay. So I put it on. And again, well, let's see what you guys are saying about the twist here. Skippy says we got the full This American Life. Yeah, that's what I was going for. Thanks. I'm glad it came across. Horsepoint Mine says, is this pre or post slap? This is pre-slap. Most of these stories with this boss are going to be pre-slap. Skippy says there's so much math already. Yeah, there was tons of math. Yeah, and it's like oh yeah, that's the other one, is that we were running 2 different contests for it. One of them was for individuals and one of them was for classrooms. So we were trying to get, classrooms for kids that were learning like arithmetic or whatever. to make to make their guesses, and we were gonna give them something like a pizza party or something dumb, but still. So it's like we had gotten classrooms involved in doing this. Skippy says I just start counting one guess at a time. Yeah, and then yeah, it turned out to be whatever. Like it was just like, well, figure you guess. Skippy says just throw on 38 and pray. Yeah, exactly. That's small town bureaucracy for you. Yeah. Horseman says he thought there were hundreds of kids vying for it. He thought that he had to keep it competitive. Yeah, classrooms too. Don't make people count things. That's bad marketing. My dude failed at game design. Right, exactly. I've got more stories about game design in this environment, but maybe I'll save those for later. But yeah, so here's how it turned out. One day he comes in and he's like, hey, these kids are coming in because they won the Count the Bolts thing and we want to get some promotional stuff. And I'm like, this classroom won? And he's like, well, this is the only classroom that entered. And they got it wrong, but we don't have to tell them. And I'm like, well, of course they got it wrong. First off, of course this was the only classroom because we're a tiny rural station. And there aren't that many classrooms that get us anyway. But also, yeah, and also classrooms that are going to be at that stage in their like math journey, right? And I was like, also, I'm glad that you removed the specification that they had to get the answer right because there was no way to get the answer right. I mean, you know, I guess I don't remember if it was 20 and 100. It might be like 1 and like 300, right? It was like a huge spread, a big enough spread that like you couldn't possibly guess it right. And you couldn't make an educated guess either because these were extra bolts throughout the whole tower for like different sort of safety things and things like that, right? So it's like, yeah, I'm glad you decided, hey, they don't have to get it right because otherwise we would have gotten nobody. So anyway, the kids came in, took a picture, they got some prizes, they got some books from our like education annex, which was good. It's that that's something that, you know, we were doing that was like most of the things we were doing were good for the community. Count the Bolts was a freaking joke. But yeah, at least those kids got to go home with some books. That's the story of Count the Bolts. It was like one of the first promotions that I did for the station that I was working at in Kansas, and for this guy. And like afterwards, like there were just so many things where I was like, what is up with this guy? So yeah, that's this is very much pre-slap, right? So very. Like, there was still a lot of things that were going to happen between then and then. Malone says, I can already see this going so well. Skippy says, I'm going to tell him. I really want to tell him. Well, this was a long time ago. So I'm sure all of those kids are out of school now. So you'd have to track each individual student of Mrs. Whatever's, like, 6th grade class and tell each of them. So if you want to undertake that quest, then by all means. Horseman Mind says, some poor teacher trying to stretch their meager supplies budget. Probably. Malone says, we should track down those students and tell them. Hey, that dude in Kansas lied to you. You just get free stuff for showing up. Suffer. Like, you thought you were smart. You've built your career on lies. You thought one time you figure out how many bolts there were in a tower. You didn't. There was no way of knowing. It was a Kobayashi Maru of counting the bolts. There was no way to win. Skippy says your Kansas stories are way better than my Army stories. I mean, I had a lot of adventures in Kansas. Like, I really did, and like Smoky Hills was like a very weird place. That station in Kansas where I worked. So it had an unusual group of people working at it. So I have a lot of stories just from that. Um, it's Kansas. There's only like kids per class. Yeah, there's only so many kids per class. Nowadays, those classes are much larger because so many schools have consolidated. So they'll take like 2 or 3 or 5 schools in an area, and then all of those kids just go to one school. And they build them a brand new school a lot of the time for that. But yeah, it's like the population in Kansas continues to drop. Richie says, I just think it's cute that the kids tried. Yeah, they tried. They had no idea. They had no idea that they were set up for failure. Skippy says, I made the spots and he didn't even tell me the right numbers. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he never told us. He never told me the actual number that he had in mind. But that's the thing, is like, he also must have guessed that number, right? He had the same information that the rest of us had. So he also guessed and decided that his guess was right. I just can't. Like, I remember I'm like, why did any of this happen? Why did any of this happen? You know? And it's like just because this guy got excited about the tower and he wanted to make a big promotion out of it. Skippy says, new school, but you drive 30 miles to go to school. Yeah. Malone says, my army stories aren't that exciting either, except the one time heavy mortar guy shot like 3 kilometers short their mark in training. Oh no, that people have to like take off running. That would have been very scary. Skippy says, I can't let this Rodrigo guy have the real info. He'd tell some stupid kids and ruin my perfect contest. Yeah, this guy really thought he was like... Have you ever met... Okay, so sometimes you'll meet people and you'll get the sense that this person thinks they're really smart, or maybe they think you're dumb. But it's rare to meet someone who genuinely thinks that he is always the smartest guy in the room, right? It's like, I'm smart, but I don't ever walk into a room full of people I don't know and assume I'm the smartest person there. And this includes like going to see like my family and my nephews, right? It's like these are kids. Like, they might be smarter than me. I don't know. They could be. You know, anybody could be smarter than you. So it was amazing to see this guy move through life, both thinking that he was always the smartest guy in the room and also constantly being proven wrong and just kind of like ignoring it. This is why I basically couldn't watch The Office for a long time. It just reminded me too much of working for this guy. Skippy says, the army is shockingly boring. Yeah, I'm sure. Horseman Mind says, I hope that guy is out there talking about Count the Bolts as his magnum opus, the same way you talk about the Void Saga. Well, I will say that the guy is not out there doing anything. He did pass away, I think, 1 or 2 years ago, which is sad. Like, I'm not someone who like idolizes people who have died or tries to lionize them in some way. Like, this guy pretty much hit me in the face. He was a terrible boss. He was like an absolute narcissist, and it's sad that he died. You know, like, he had a family. You know, he had a wife. He had stepchildren. So, you know, obviously it's sad, but I'm not gonna sit here and be like, yeah, actually he was a pretty cool guy. He wasn't. He was the worst. If I'm gonna do something bigger, it's gonna have to be pretty big. Yeah. Wile E. Coyote, marketing genius. Yeah. Skippy says, I'm positive everyone younger than me is smarter than me. I watched a 1-year-old use a debit card yesterday. Yeah, definitely. Especially, you know, when it comes to new technology or anything like that. Kids are on top of it. R.L. Richie says, which is sad. He said, smiling. You know, I mean, it is sad. I'm not pretending like it's sad. That's the thing, is like, this is my genuine opinion. It is sad that he died, but, you know, Also, he was, he was pretty old. He was a cancer survivor. Um, he had been around the block, but yeah, still definitely the worst boss I've ever had. Steven will always have that. He can never be a worse boss than that guy. Let's see. Skippy says, I'm kind of glad a bolt counting contest was his magnum opus. That's pretty lame. Yeah. Richie says, I admire your really adaptive and holistic worldview, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, this happens a lot with politicians. Like, politicians die all the time, and people are like, well, let's remember them for like the good things they did. And it's like, no, let's remember them for everything they did. Like, this is the point. Like, especially if you're a politician and like a federal politician, right? A national politician. Like, that's the whole point. This is your legacy. This is the world that you're leaving behind. And it's like, yeah, by all means, let's call them out on all the bullshit. It doesn't matter that they're like, it definitely doesn't matter that they died. Like, if they did bad stuff, we need to recognize that. Because if we only remember the good stuff, then a part of our history is missing as a country. Sorry. If you're a politician, you signed up for this. Which says, yeah, that's very mature. Thanks for being real about it. Yeah, sure. Which says, let's not throw a party if somebody dies is all. Let's not throw a party if somebody dies is all. Usually. Yeah. I mean, there's no. I'm not like, hey, this guy is finally dead. Like, I think I would have felt that way if, like, Trump had died of COVID while in office. Like, I would have been very relieved. I would have been like, oh my God. I can't believe we finally got rid of that guy. But we didn't. Also, Pence probably would have just steered the ship in a different, terrible direction. So, yeah, Anyway, not to get too into politics. These are my politics, guys. Any new members that came in and wanted to know whether I was what side of the spectrum of politics I was on. I'm definitely not on Trump, so there you go. What else? What time is it? Oh, we still got some time. Let's see. Let's make some more tokens. Oh no, I need the whole monitor. Here we go. Do. Okay. Out of that, what do I have left? Cedar, Sentinel. Sentinels are fast defenders that focus on protecting their allies with Overwatch. They're fairly short-range attackers, relying on positioning to get the most of their kit. Are as resilient as other defenders. The retrograde... Oh, never mind. Operator, Priest, Pyro... I mean, that's cool. The thing is, like, we can probably work out a better guy with a shotgun from the other stuff. So let's see what we have. No. You know what? I know that the Blackbeard has a... Yeah, it has like this stance with a shotgun. So that looks cool. I'll just try and make it not look as much like a Blackbeard. What weapons does it have? A combat shotgun and a retractable sword. That's good. Let me see if there's anything... Heavy axe, axe. None. It still looks like it wants to grab something, so we can't just take out something. It'll look weird. HCB. Oh, there you go. Heavy Charge Blade. That's what that is. Do I want that eye glow? I guess I do. Let's do this cute blue color. Do silver for the weapon. That's probably okay. R. Richie says the Trump COVID thing is definitely where that attitude was most visible in recent years. Yeah. Skippy says, so how did the last set of Lancer miniatures go? Get any party kills? Let's see. We didn't get any party kills, but people got lost. We lost probably 3 points of structure in a party of 4. But yeah, they did a really good job. This is where like the last moments of the fight were. Here's the objective. They were supposed to get it all the way over. But before, they still had a couple turns left to do it, and they destroyed everything that I threw at them. So I was like, well, there's not going to be any more enemies, so running through the paces of getting the payload all the way there, there's no point, right? But yeah, they almost did it. They did a good job. There's a Rainmaker survived, but wasn't going to survive for long because it had a big melee guy on top of it. So I was like, okay, well. Actually, it might not have survived. I think I ended the game on this guy's turn. I was like, okay, well, the Rainmaker was literally the last enemy that was still around. So, you know, you guys win. So I don't know if that means I need to throw more enemies in. Or what? It was interesting. It's the first mission that I've run like by the book. I had run like 3 missions or 3 combats before, but I was very shy about throwing enemies in because I didn't want the players to die. But in Lancer, characters are very like mechs made by the PCs are very survivable. So you can throw a lot of stuff at even a license level 0 group, and they'll be okay. They'll be, you know, worse for wear at the end, but they'll do well. Horse One Man says sometimes that's the way to win. You just have to build a better guy with a shotgun. Yeah. Skippy says, have you heard of the Gundam versus games, Rodrigo? Apparently it's treated like a pseudo fighting game. Maybe I have. That's interesting. Is it like a behind? Like, is it one of those games where you're like in a mech, but you can see it from behind and you're like running around a 3D area? R.L. Richie says, Skippy, is that a newer thing or an older one? Yeah, I found something I did like 20 years ago. Yeah, Gundam Versus is like an arena fighter. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, an arena fighter. I haven't played it. I don't think I might have played Arena Fighters like way back in the day, in the arcade, but no, I have not played that. Let's see. I like this blue color. It's like really pretty. But let me change the heat sinks and eye color. Maybe heat sinks one color, eye a different color. It gives it a little bit more of a splash of color. Cut. Paste. Open in. Or open with. GIMP. Let me check what. Yep, size 1. Most enemy mechs are sized 1, but there's a few size 2 ones, and of course a size 3 one, or a couple size, maybe 2 size 3 ones, and then I think there might be an enemy mech that's size 4, which is really big. Close this. Maybe not close that, but definitely this. Get over here. Move this guy down. Turn this off. Embiggen. Oops. Wrong layer. Now embiggen. There you go. Let's sharpen it. Okay. Boop. Oh, this is going to have a lot of little things to fill. This little crotch handle. Gotta make sure you got something in there. Let's invert. Grow by 2 pixels. Paint bucket. New layer, paint bucket. Skippy says they did a hold back to block video about it. It's a third-person arena fighter, but specifically not an anime arena fighter. There's a huge emphasis on movement and comboing your moves. That's cool. It's got free 3D environment, but has actually solid mechanics. Very fast-paced and quite technical. That's great. Skippy says you do need 2 TVs to run it in tournament, I believe, but there's a ton of depth to it, so it ends up being worth the investment. I mean, in a tournament, they very frequently have like lots of games you need 2 TVs to run in a tournament. Skippy says, oh no, this enemy has the anime gleam. He's going to kill someone. Yeah. Yeah, the retrograde minis guys are like very aware of sort of like pop culture stuff. I forget which one it is, but there's a mech that has like the menacing kanji. I don't know if they're technically kanji, like the menacing like text around it from like JoJo. So they're onto it. They know what they're doing. Let's see. So this is a what was it called? Sentinel. Close this. Add character. Edit. Skippy says, I only point out the 2 TVs being weird in a fighting game context. Yeah, most fighting games run on the same screen these days. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but yeah, if you're playing like Splatoon or whatever, everybody needs their own TV, right? Yeah. Loving the designs of the mech so far. Yeah, Retrograde Minis has lots of great stuff and lots of stuff that allows you to mess with things. So, yeah, I'm very happy to use them and to tweak them on the website. And here's the thing. Um, Let me just real quick write that it's meant to be a Sentinel before I forget. Um, if you have, so I have the basic Patreon subscription. Oh, I just realized that like my email address has been on here this whole time. That's not good. Um, can I shrink it so that it's not? Can I close this now that I've pointed it out to everyone? No, it follows me wherever I go. Oh well. Don't email me unless you need to do something. But anyway, I have the basic membership. If you get like the second tier of membership, you can download all of the parts, um, all possible mech parts for this frame as individual PNGs with current colors. So you can actually go into GIMP or Photoshop or whatever and mess with them yourself. And they have a huge um, custom, not this, it's the Chop Shop. So, people are constantly making new mechs. Some of them are animated. They're either made with, pieces from the Retrograde Minis or, some new made things. So yeah, like you are able to alter these. They encourage it. Um, so yeah, it's good times. Ooh. Yeah. Let's see. We'll go ahead and say that this is an IPSN model since it's a Blackbeard. What would be a good maritime thing to call this? A Dutchman. We'll name it that for now. Skibby says, gotta delete the VOD now. Yeah. Hey Rodrigo, I'm just emailing you to ask if I can go to Billy's house for a sleepover on Friday. Yeah, don't email me for frivolous things, please. That is annoying because that probably means that I shouldn't. Or I'm not going to be able to use that retrograde site on screen anymore. Just, for safety reasons. Don't want to be advertising my email all the time. So, we'll see. But that's okay. Think I'm gonna wrap it up. I know it's pretty early. I've only been on for like exactly 2 hours at this juncture. But yeah, I got critical hit later, and like I said, I haven't gotten a lot of sleep, so I need to probably take like a power nap before it starts. You could do up a little stream asset to cover it. I guess I could. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Let's see. All right, so yeah, sorry that the streams. Let me see if I can get the captions operational again. All right, sorry that the stream's a little short, but I guess I can't. Captions are like, forget it. You had your chance, okay? But now they're broken again. Just don't worry about it. Okay, so yeah. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me and Smokey. We're always very happy to have you guys around. If you've been wondering what that pink thing is in the corner, it's actually a giant, or like a life-size Jigglypuff that my wife got me. So yeah, you probably weren't, I don't know if you guys would be expecting this, but that's what's been in the corner this whole time. Jigglypuff also sleepy, so I think we're all going to take a nap. And yeah, it'll be good times. There you go. So yeah, thanks guys. I'll see you around. Don't forget to go to Lopez Family Variety channel and follow us there. And if you're watching this on Lopez Family Variety channel, don't forget to go to twitch.tv/lpikachon to follow us there. And no matter what, you should go to Twitter and follow @Fearsome_Critter because that's where most announcements and stuff come from. So yeah, thanks guys. We will talk to you soon, and we'll try to do this again next week. See you later. Where's my stream ending slate? Here we go. Activate slate.